Hi, so this is my first video on making mosaics, which I've been wanting to make videos for quite some time, but I guess it's one of those things I haven't gotten around to. So I thought, I just finished these pots today, so I thought that while I start fresh on a new one that I should just video the process. So first I thought I would kind of explain the process of this beforehand and then show you in detail as I go. So for these ones I drew out exactly what I wanted them to look like, if you can see the sketch. So how I wanted the front, the back both to have a stripe, which I did, and then shells on the rest. And then for the medium one, I wanted the front and the back to have like the waves of beads and shells. And then for the mini one, I just wanted all shells or all beads, which I ended up changing it to all shells. But you can see how I did front, back for the big pot and labeled like what each section would be like. And then like the little name, I want to name it on the website. For this one, I have it sketched out as well. So that one is right here. So I wanted to use these different colors of stained glass for the big one to make waves on either side of it. And then for the middle one, I just want all one color. And then the small one will be the opposite of that color, if that makes sense. I am doing sets of 3 with these pots. So in my bins over here, this is all just like papers I use while I'm making it. Like I'll just set this out with paper over it to catch any of the beads or shells or prevent it from getting on the carpet, obviously, until I come up with a better solution of where to do all of this. But all over here, I just got these bins yesterday actually, just for all the different mosaic pieces that I have. So for these next ones, I wanted to use this pretty white stained glass that I got. And I just bought these in sheets and hammered it myself. And then I wanted to use this light blue one as well. They're beautiful. So I want to do that and then create some sort of wave structure on here from the bottom up, and then use the white on the other spots. I guess my suggestion for step 1 would be to try to sketch it out. Decide if you're just going to do, you know, 1 pot or sets of 3. For the first few pots, I made just 1. So this is one of my first ones that I made. It's like an ombre blue. And then as I sold those ones, I started getting more supplies. And now I want to try sets because I've always wanted to, but I thought I should start small so I don't waste money if people don't want to buy them. But now that they have, I'm branching out. And I'm still new with this, but it's something I've always wanted to do. So I'm excited to hopefully be able to make this video process work and help people start a new hobby, or if people have been wanting to do this for a while, hopefully motivate them to do it as well. I just use Etsy to sell it, and then I made an Instagram, so really if people want to buy it through Instagram or Etsy, either way is fine with me. I just thought it would be better to start with Etsy that already has a platform rather than a website where I'm less likely to have any traffic at all. So that's how I decided to start, but I will get started on gluing this, kind of talk you through and show you as I go. Okay, so for this part, I use this glue that I just got off of Amazon called Weld Bond. I really like it. It's worked really well for me. So with these, I just kind of will find pieces that I could shape. So like this one I could use for a little wave curve, if that makes sense. So I'll just get some glue. And usually I like to start at the base. It's easier to work my way up, I think. And then I'll just put a little bit of glue on here directly. I'm getting a little low. So I'll just start by putting it right on there. Okay. And you kind of want to distance them out. I don't have any like specific shapes. Like one of my first ones I had square tiles. So it's easier to create designs and things. But with this I think it's kind of fun because you just kind of have to find different tiles and shapes and fill it in as you go, which forces you to be creative. I think it's more fun that way. This is also my favorite color, so I am excited I found something like this. So I'm going to try to build this up a little bit as if it was a wave. If you can see the shape. You can also sketch it out a little bit. I did that with the striped one because I kind of wanted straight lines and to judge the size. But with this, I kind of just do it freehand. But I'll try to keep the line, you know, if you can see the shape a little bit better. But it's really fun because you can choose what color. It's just so versatile. Choose colors you like. I obviously love the beach. I lived in Kauai for a little while. And so I've kind of been making pieces based on inspiration of beaches from there. I want to do something like around the world pieces, just all the different places I've been. I think that'd be super interesting. It would be challenging and or like what type of inspiration I gather from each one. I think that would be really cool, depending if it's colors, the tile style, if that makes sense, like square or more stained glass like this. So I think, yeah, there's just so many different things you can do. Okay, so now that I've finished the blue part, which you can kind of see the wave shape on both sides, I'm going to get the white stained glass and then just slowly start filling in the rest of the space. Let's see. So I'll just kind of see what pieces like fit in there. So kind of like that. Then I'll just continue to go until it is finished. So after I finish this part of gluing the designs on, so you can see the waves on there. Once you put the grout on there, the shapes will become more realistic and stand out a little bit more, but you can see the wave shapes go around on either side. And then after I do this part, I just let the pot and the glue dry for 24 hours about. I'll probably start doing the rest of it in the morning and just let it dry overnight. But I will show you the next part tomorrow after the glue's dried. This pot has been able to dry overnight, so everything's glued all into place. And so the next step is to make the grout. and grout the pot. So I just use this Mosaic grout in white. So I will mix some of that up. And I always start with less because you can add more and you don't want to waste it. And then you'll just add some water. Just do a little bit at a time. Less water is better. It mixes up into a like paste texture really quick. So you don't want to add too much. A little bit more. So that's about perfect. Yeah, that's perfect about where you want it. Then you'll grab your pot, and I just use a spoon. Tap it in the spots. And try to use the edge of the spoon to get in between all the little cracks really well. Especially these ones that come up higher. I like to put the grout underneath to kind of dull, like make those sharp edges a little bit duller. And with these big tiles, it's super nice because it's easier to scrape all the excess grout off the top of it, so you're not wasting as much. Whereas when they're small, you can't really do that as well. And so you end up wasting a little bit more. There are tools out there for this, but I started, I'm gonna add a little bit more water. I started during quarantine and didn't have access to stores or anything. Yeah, that's a little bit better actually. A little runnier like that. It kind of flows better in between the cracks. But anyway, I didn't have access to a craft store or anything like that. I just started with some supplies I got on Amazon. And I didn't want to, you know, buy a bunch of things if I didn't know I'd even like doing this. But ever since I started with this using literally a plastic spoon, it actually works perfect because you can scoop it well, and then the edge is thin enough to get in between all the cracks. So for those dry spots, I'm gonna just squeeze a little bit of water on there so they don't harden up too quickly. And I kind of just do like one side at a time from bottom to top. I find that's what works best. And don't worry about being super careful with it because you can just wipe it off at the end. At the base though, I do try to make it level or give enough extra on there so that I can sponge it and like sponge it into an even layer. Otherwise, if you don't put enough, you can really easily wipe all the grout off without realizing and then have to go back and refill it. Okay, I'll finish this and speed it up, and then I will show you what I do after. Okay, so after I finish putting the grout all around in between all the tiles, then I will get just a wet thing of water here, and then just a sponge. And then I slowly will start removing it off of all the tiles. And then smoothing out all the grout that's in between the tiles as well. And you just want to make sure you rinse the sponge off pretty often. Otherwise it won't smooth out as well if it's not as wet and if there's extra grout on the sponge. See how it won't really, like right here on the bottom, it's just rolling up into balls because the sponge isn't wet enough. You want to go pretty gentle at first, just because you don't want to scrape off too much of the grout. If you scrape off too much, if you're not gentle enough, then you can have little gaps where the pot will show through. You don't really want that, and you don't want divots. You just kind of want it to be as smooth as possible in between all the tiles. And then for edges like this where it's sharp, I'll kind of gradually flatten it out more because I don't want it to be poking out super far and sharp. Be careful near the top as well, because you don't want to break it off and then have it chip down so it's not an even line around the edge of the pot on the top and the bottom. And wherever it's not even, like right here there's a little bubble, if you just get the sponge a little more wet and then you wet the grout back up, you can kind of mold it like that so that it's filled, rather than having to mix more grout and reapply it. So once I get it like this, where most of the grout is off, then I'm going to flip it and just get this all off the bottom. And then just go smoothly around the edges to make sure that the grout is even with the bottom. There's no high points. And I'm gonna hold it again like this and just slowly sort of dab it while it's a little extra wet so that I get the shape that I want, like a little rounded edge. So now I'm going to do the same for the top. Slowly go around the edge, make sure it's even. And I just like to clean up the grout that like dripped anywhere, make it look all nice and clean. Then I'll pick it back up and do the same thing, kind of dab it into a smooth rounded edge. You can almost do it like you're filing it as well. Just a back and forth motion. So that looks pretty good. Then after this, I'll just go in with a sponge like this and just smooth off all these like that so that it gets a cleaner look. You want to let it dry for about a day because you don't want there to be any excess water when you're putting the sealant on there. Otherwise it might not seal properly, or it can create some sort of issues with the grout. So yeah, the longer the better. After your pot has dried for about 24 hours, then you just want to make sure it's all dry all the way around. You will apply a sealant. So I use this one that you can just find at Hobby Lobby or on Amazon. I'm sure it's online, a lot of craft stores. And then I'll just put it on a little thing like this. So you want to shake it up. You just need a super small amount because it's really thin. A little goes a long way. Then I'll just use a brush like this. Dab it in there. And apply like that. This is the last step. And this sealant dries pretty quickly. It says on here that it will take about 2 hours, which is a lot faster than everything else in the process. And this will just make sure that if you want to keep it outside, or if you have plants in there and you get water on the grout's not chipping. And then it also gives it a pretty finished look. It's a little bit shiny. You want to make sure you get the edges as well on the bottom and the top, so it doesn't chip away from the rim where it's a little bit thinner. Then I'll also use just another dry brush and kind of dab away the excess so there's no globs of the sealant, especially on the tiles. You don't want that. So that's what it will look like with the finished glossier look. It's really pretty. So thanks for watching my tutorial. I hope that this was enjoyable for you and that it gave you some ideas for mosaics. I hope it gave you some ideas on where to buy supplies, what kind of supplies you'll need, and the process that goes along with making mosaics. You can do this, you know, on a flat surface like a table or a pot, whatever you want. It's all sort of the same. Let me know if you want to see how I post my pots on Etsy and the process for that, like the pictures I take and how I calculate things out. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you come back for some more videos.